Happy holidays, everyone. It's a nice time of year when we can get together with family and friends, students get to relax for a month before going back into the pit of despair come January, and let's not forget the most important part, it's a time for asking for useless junk in the form of a wish list. As a veteran gamer, I thought it'd be a fun idea to make a wish list of the games I want that are coming out in 2022. And why not, I'll throw in some speculations in there as well so I can be disappointed and blame it on corporations for not meeting my demands. I'm gonna be honest, I thought 2021 was a little boring in terms of game releases. Sure, there was Metroid Dread and I played a few other titles that I thoroughly enjoyed, but I feel gaming is just in this awkward phase right now. The 9th generation of consoles is still pretty new and we all know it takes a few years before some real heavy hitters start being released for those. And Nintendo mainly focused on smaller releases this year. Next year though, I have a good feeling about next year. I think it might even be on par with 2017, a year that was filled with big release after big release. I've ordered this list by how much I'm anticipating each game, starting with the ones I'm kind of looking forward to, and ending with the ones I can't wait to get my hands on. Sound good? Then without further ado, let's get started. Sonic had a rough transition into 3D. I guarantee no one has ever said that before. No, but really, 3D Sonic games have been disappointing as of late. But that doesn't mean that a good 3D Sonic game is impossible. The adventure games have their problems, but I can never call them bad. For the most part, they're incredibly fun 3D platformers with good level design and music. I could never get bored playing them. Same goes for most of the Boost games like Unleashed and Colors. Hell, the FPS Boost update given to Unleashed and Generations on the Xbox Series consoles has tempted me to buy an Xbox more than any other exclusive Xbox game. While I'm not as big of a Sonic fan as a lot of other people, it still pains me when we get Sonic games like this, and this. It's frustrating how much the quality of 3D Sonic games has fluctuated throughout time. Knowing all that, I'm still looking forward to Sonic Frontiers. I think we're due for another good 3D Sonic, and although Frontiers can still possibly bomb since they seem to be taking more of an open world approach, and Sonic Team has had a problem with overambition in the past, I'm curious to see more nonetheless, and as it stands, it definitely earns a spot on my 2022 wish list. On to the next one. Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 are the pinnacle of the stylized, action-packed hack-and-slash subgenre made popular by the Devil May Cry series from Capcom and this series from Platinum Games, everyone's favorite Star Fox developers. I don't play these games for the story, I find the plot to be forgettable and boring, quite frankly. But the gameplay is so good and Bayonetta is such a fantastic character with her no fucks given attitude and one-liners. She is one of the coolest characters in the industry. Bayonetta 3 doesn't look like it's gonna hold back on the over-the-top nature these games are known for. The combat looks just as frenetic, brutal, and fast-paced as I expect. And although she's got a new look, Bayonetta is still the same strong and sarcastic action hero I know and love. Bayonetta 3 looks pretty freaking sweet. I love JRPGs. It's been my favorite genre in gaming ever since I fell in love with Final Fantasy VII as a child, and Final Fantasy has been my favorite JRPG franchise all this time. However, Square Enix has always had two JRPG babies, Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, and the latter doesn't appeal to me nearly as much as the former. From what I understand, Dragon Quest is a more safe and traditional JRPG franchise. Like if you were to close your eyes and picture one of these games, chances are it wouldn't be far off from what Dragon Quest looks like. The series has remained very faithful to its roots, and has mainly strived to perfect its own formula with each new mainline game while telling new stories with new characters. And I think that's why Final Fantasy is more my jam. While Final Fantasy may have more misses than Dragon Quest, I like that nearly every new game takes risks. Hell, the most popular Final Fantasy game right now isn't even the regular JRPG. It's a critically acclaimed MMO with an expanded free trial which you can play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning. Regardless, I grew a bit of a soft spot for Dragon Quest not too long ago. I bought 11S since I heard great things about it, and while I wouldn't say I loved it, I don't regret getting it at all. This is such a charming game, the characters are also likable, I really like the humor. I thought the story was good, the turn-based combat is nothing I haven't seen before. Did feel too grindy at points though. The music was certainly a thing. Overall, the game wasn't as ambitious or grand as I would have liked, but I wouldn't be opposed to playing another Dragon Quest game, which is why the remake of 3 with Octopath Traveler style graphics is on my list. I've heard great things about the original. Not the original, the original. And I'm not gonna lie, the visuals are what caught my eye the most. You can say it's a shallow reason to be excited for a game, but I don't give a shit. If the intention was to attract newcomers with its graphics, then mission accomplished. I don't think it's been confirmed for next year, but I'd say it's a safe bet. I can always count on a Kirby game for a relaxing time. The series usually plays it safe, which is why I think it's been relatively consistent up to this point. The last 4 mainline Kirby games have all followed a very similar template. Not counting Planet Robobot maybe, they're just standard 2D platformers with similar settings and aesthetics. Yeah, none of them are bad, but after Star Allies launched with a mixed reception from fans, something had to change. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the change that the series needs. For the first time, we're getting a Kirby adventure in 3D. Very little of the game has been shown, but this is the most excited I've been about Kirby in ever. It looks like it's set in some post-apocalyptic version of Earth, which is metal as fuck. The gameplay gives me 3D Land and 3D World vibes in the sense that it looks like it plays almost the same as the 2D games, but now it's just in this 3D setting to give the player more freedom. Visually, it looks really nice and colorful, and I really hope it ends up being great. It's coming out during the spring season, and I will very likely be getting it day one. Congrats Kirby for making the jump to 3D. Took you a few decades, but better late than never, I suppose. The Soulsborne games. They never fail to remind me how garbage I am. From Demon Souls, the Dark Souls games, Bloodborne, Sekiro, the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, that one's my favorite. They're known for their unforgiving difficulty, their rich worlds filled with tons of intriguing lore and wacky side characters, their unforgiving difficulty, the seemingly endless amount of character build customization, their wonderfully constructed levels, and oh yeah, their difficulty. I only recently got into these games last year when I bought the Demon Souls remake for the PS5. Still the best exclusive I've played on the system. After just a few hours of playing, I understood why these games are so appealing. Not only are you driven to get past that tough level or boss and don't want to stop until you either beat it or snap your controller in half, but as a huge Metroid fan, the exploration and the design of these levels were impressive. So far, this is the only Souls game I've beaten, and I've recently started playing through Bloodborne, but that's been enough to make me anxious to see how Elden Ring is going to turn out. It's a Souls open world game, how could it not catch my eye? It looks beautiful, gameplay looks like it's been refined a bit, and it's a safe bet that it will be just as challenging as the other games. It's only a few months away, and I think it will be a day one purchase for me. The PlayStation 4 was my first non-Nintendo console. Obviously, I was very familiar with PlayStation games before I got a PS4, whether it was through emulation or when I visited my cousin's house, but in 2018 I finally gave in and got a PS4 for myself to try out all the other games I'd been missing out on. Many of them surprised me by just how amazing they were, but one in particular surprised me more than the others: God of War. It didn't matter that it was my first God of War game. In the first hour, I was beating up a god with a tree. How could you expect me to stop there? God of War 2018 not only looks absolutely stunning, but it tells one of the best stories I have ever seen in a video game. I'm a sucker for emotional stories about a parent and their kid learning to get along and bond throughout the course of a long journey. Like The Last of Us, another one of my favorite PlayStation games. I'm also a sucker for mercilessly slaughtering mythical creatures and hearing Kratos say boy over and over again.
Read it, boy.
I had a blast going through the game, and Ragnarok looks like it'll be more of the same, maybe with a few gameplay additions here and there. But it's the story of Kratos and Atreus that I'm dying to see continue. The Mario Kart games are extremely nostalgic to me. The first game I got for the first console I was able to call my own was Mario Kart Double Dash, and I've been following the series ever since. Aside from Smash Bros. And Mario Party, Mario Kart is my go-to game for pure multiplayer mayhem. With a group of friends, anyone is bound to have an unforgettable time playing one of Nintendo's flagship franchises. These games are always some of the best-selling pieces of software for the consoles they release on, so of course it's in Nintendo's best interest to make a new installment every couple of years. So why the hell haven't they since 2014? Listen, I love Mario Kart 8 as much as anybody else. Even though it's still selling like hotcakes and Nintendo could theoretically wait until the release of the Switch's successor to make Mario Kart 9, at this point it is long overdue. I've been playing on these tracks for almost a decade now. It would be a different story if they continued adding DLC, but they didn't. So give the fans what they want, Nintendo. Either give us Mario Kart 9 or go all out and reveal Nintendo Kart or something. You owe us after that Switch Online expansion pack update. 1 game per month, are you serious? 3D platformers have slowly been making a comeback with titles like A Hat in Time and Psychonauts 2. However, no other IP has done this genre as much justice as insert Chris Pratt meme here. You can never go wrong with a Mario platformer, that's a lie. I mainly grew up with the classic 2D entries like Mario 3 and World, but nowhere does the plumber shine more than in the third dimension. These games all hold a special place in my heart, for better or for worse. If I had to choose 5 games that I'd play for the rest of my life and nothing else, Mario 64 would be one of my picks without a second thought. These games have some of the most imaginative and magical worlds in gaming. When they don't focus on delivering some truly engaging and replayable obstacle course style levels, they focus on delivering gameplay and movement that is unmatched, the kind that makes you want to fool around in hub worlds for hours on end. In a matter of months, it will be the 5-year anniversary of Super Mario Odyssey. It's high time that Mario goes on another 3D adventure. No matter the setting and premise of the next 3D Mario, I know Nintendo can pull it off. They have for the past 25 years. While I wouldn't mind seeing a direct sequel to Odyssey, I'd much prefer something entirely new. Whatever it is, I'm excited to see it and I'm optimistic that it will come out next year. I mentioned in the beginning of the video how I believe 2022 could be another 2017, and I was specifically referring to Nintendo. I classify 3 games in particular as being largely responsible for elevating the Switch's launch year to legendary status. 3 games in 3 separate franchises that I never would have thought would have new installments come out in the same year. And I would be so happy if it happened again. One of these games has already been confirmed. The second is the one I just talked about, not confirmed, but it could happen. And the last would be Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, here's the funny thing, I have a confession to make. I'm sure I've mentioned at least once on this channel that the first Xenoblade is my favorite game ever made. The second one on the other hand, oh I have it, but I've never completed it. And I've tried to on 3 separate occasions since it came out. I'm obviously not going to get into it now, that's a discussion for another day. All I'll say is Xenoblade 2 just didn't resonate with me nearly as much as I wanted it to. However, it has some very strong aspects that I'm a big fan of. And you know, Xenoblade 1 is my baby. It's not a surprise that I want to see Xenoblade 3. I'd rather it take more inspiration from the first game than the second, but whatever happens, I'm gonna freak out like a maniac if it's announced to be coming next year. Whatever my opinion is of 2, that doesn't change the fact that the developers over at Monolith Soft are very talented. After how much they blew me away with Shulk's Adventure years ago, I will always be anxious to see what project they have in store for us next. Before I get to the last game on the list, I have a few honorable mentions that I want to go over. Horizon 2 Forbidden West. I've played around the first 10 hours of Zero Dawn, and although I thought I'd like it, it didn't click with me. Maybe I needed to play it more, and I might just do that in the future because Forbidden West looks quite nice. I'll consider picking it up after a price drop if I hear it's even better than the first. Pokemon Legends Arceus. I wouldn't call myself a Pokemon fan per se, I kind of lost interest after Sun and Moon failed to hold my attention. Doesn't mean I'm opposed to giving the series another shot, I've just been waiting for it to get out of its comfort zone and try something new to reel me back in. Legends Arceus appears to be what I've been looking for, and I'll certainly be keeping my eye on it when it launches next month. Splatoon 3. Here's my problem with Splatoon. I got the first 2 games right at the beginning of their lifespans when they only had a few weapons, maps, and modes to choose from. But they're so much fun that I played them each for about 80 hours anyways, grinding online matches to buy new equipment for my Squid Kid. Unfortunately, I've already forgotten about the games when the really big updates start coming around, and I have a hard time getting back into them. If Splatoon 3 launches with a good amount of content and improves the campaign significantly, then I'll probably go for it. Final Fantasy 16. As I stated, I love Final Fantasy. I also stated it's not the most consistent series, both in terms of the direction the games go in and their quality. The last mainline Final Fantasy was not for me. I did not like 15 for a multitude of reasons. 16 looks like it's going to be another wildly different take for the franchise, one that I'm very curious to see more of. I certainly wouldn't complain if it came out next year. I would normally give the honorable mention to the second part of 7 Remake, but I'd rather not get my hopes up. And the less I think of Stranger of Paradise, the better.
Chaos, 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 chaos!
Lastly, I have to bring up Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Dread came out of nowhere this year and exceeded my expectations for the next 2D Metroid game. It's one of the best games I've played in my favorite video game franchise. Prime 4 now has a lot to live up to. We've known about it for years but still haven't seen anything. Development was scrapped and started over in 2019, so I think it's very likely they'll at least release a trailer in 2022. Or you know, they can also just release it next year. There's no such thing as too much Metroid. With all that out of the way, let's wrap this video up, shall we? Shocker, I know. Breath of the Wild is still the Switch's most important title. It helped kick off the library of what would become one of the biggest surprise console successes in history, and of course, for the first time since the original game, Zelda went full-on open world with little to no restrictions. The industry had already been saturated with tons of other open world games, but Breath of the Wild was on another level. It prioritized player choice above all else. Not only were you allowed to go literally wherever you wanted after completing the tutorial area, but the game's physics engine allowed for innovative and creative approaches to every aspect of the gameplay. It's the satisfaction you get from experimenting with how much you can push the limits of the game that separates this open world from the rest. A lot of time and work went into Breath of the Wild. It would have been foolish for Aonuma and the rest of the team to start over from scratch for the inevitable next open world Zelda game. And that's why they didn't. The sequel to Breath of the Wild was announced in 2019 and we got our first taste of gameplay in E3 2021. Even though it's going to have the same map and almost definitely the same gameplay engine as the original, the trailer shows plenty of new stuff that's going to be added to make this worthy of being a true sequel and not some glorified DLC. We'll be able to travel across the sky now. Link's got these magic hand abilities that'll open up a ton of new gameplay options. It seems to be connected to the story as well, which I hope is not an afterthought this time around. I can't say I don't have my concerns, mainly with the story and other issues I had with the original, like the unremarkable dungeons, the unnecessarily large number of shrines and Korok seeds, and the painful item management system. It's great that the sequel is doing a lot to differentiate itself as much as it can from its predecessor, but I hope the team also used the feedback and criticism shared in the last 5 years to craft the best possible version of Breath of the Wild. I've already sunk hundreds of hours of my life into the first game, and I'm ready to do it again with Breath of the Wild 2, whatever the final name ends up being. And that was my 2022 game wishlist / predictions video. I'd really like to know all of your wish lists in the comments below, and while you're at it, let me know what your favorite game was this year too. You can all probably guess what mine was. Thank you all so much for your support this year and for getting this channel close to 1,000 subscribers. I couldn't have done it without you. Here's to a great 2022, and I hope you all find some time to unwind, relax, and have some fun during this season. I'll see you all next time for the next video review. Until then, be safe, take care, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.